Welcome, everybody, to Astrology Unplugged. I am Rick DiClemente, and welcome to joining us to our talk tonight about the sun signs. If you are not familiar with us, we're on every Thursday night at 8 o'clock or replayed on YouTube. Now, something came to me, and thank God it does, because this is show number 219, and it's hard to keep thinking of a topic every week. So it just came to me to talk to people about their sun sign, which I don't usually do for a lot of reasons, and raising kids. And if you have ever enjoyed reading the old time Linda Goodman book, she did a really good job on the sun signs in the 60s. Her book is still number one. She wrote about each sun sign, the male lover, the female lover, the child, the boss. And she did a pretty good job, really. I think you can get a little deeper than her, but she was pretty darn good and she was very entertaining. So that's where this idea came from. And I started out to do a show tonight on what sun sign bosses you have. And then I started thinking about the kids. So let's do the kids. Now, like I said, if we're talking about an Aries and you don't have a child, think about the Aries people that you know. Now, when you talk about sun signs, it's a very difficult subject because we're not recording. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're recording. Thank you very much. Thank you, Erica. I'm glad you checked that. It should show you at the top of your screen. Yeah. Okay, the trouble with sun signs is we all over identify with our sun sign way too much. I mean, I'm a Capricorn. I have a lot of qualities that are very Capricornian, and I have a whole bunch that aren't. And everybody else is like that. It's very rare somebody is a lot like their sun sign. Now, and that makes it very complex, which is how it should be. Astrology is a great mixture of things. And as I've told you, when you do a lot of readings, you'll see most people have four signs in them real strong, four or five. Almost everybody has four strong signs in them, maybe five. Not three, not seven, four or five. Now, that just seems to be about the norm. But anyhow, when we wrote that book, and when we focused down to the archetypal level, what that means is we took it down to the very primal level of where that sign comes out of the stem. Where does it really come out of the seed? What's it like at its most primal level? And that's why it's so important for you that are learning to learn the primal level, to learn the real down deep, what makes them tick level. Because when you start seeing that, you'll see that it's true throughout all the areas, throughout all the Tauruses. So tonight, I'm going to give you general advice on what it's like, whether you're with this person, married to this person, have a child that's this sign, and I'm going to give you the whys. And I'm also going to give you the what's the trap? What's the trap? Okay? Especially when Amy gets talking, I'm going to put a what's the trap? Okay. The trap means that even though you're raising the sign perfectly according to the book, they're still going to fall into a pitfall. Some signs have a big pitfall, some signs not too bad. And you know me, I'm pretty darn honest, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is not coming from personal opinion. This is coming from the personal astrologer in me that's seen so many signs through the years. Okay, so we'll get started with Aries, and there may be a time when I need to flash on this screen. There may be a time that I'll use this diagram, which is in the book and is very, very helpful to me. Okay, when you're talking about an Aries sign, each sign's very difficult. when you're talking about an Aries, I'm going to be talking to you about what are the main problems, what are the main mistakes that people make with Aries, what are the main mistakes that they make, and what their pitfall is. Okay. When you're with an Aries child, depending on all of this depends on if you got too much in Aries, okay? When you have a sun sign, you don't want too many planets in it. You just get too imbalanced. And the thing about an Aries is an Aries is going to do what they want to do, and they want to do what they want to do. Now, the thing that we underappreciate with them, they have tremendous instincts because they're the first sign of the zodiac, and they better have some good instincts because they got the whole thing started. And what is the whole thing? They wanted to go away from God and experience themselves, and they're amazed by themselves. They're enamored with themselves, not in a selfish way, can be, but they're enamored that they even exist. Wow, look what I just did. So you got to get the hell out of the way. That's what you do with an Aries. You just get out of the way. Now, there are mitigating factors, of course, but they want to go from here to there and they don't want it complicated. Simple. Now, think of the Aries you know. You may know some complicated ones that have big Saturns or big Uranus or big Plutos in their chart, which is very common. But Aries people want an adventure. They want to test themselves to see how well they're doing with that thing. Because they're enamored with, wow, I could do that too. Do you see what I just did? Look what I just did. Do you see that? Well, there's a good way of doing that. That's not selfish. Hey, I just pulled a strike. You see me do that? There's a way of doing it that's very selfish. Because if you want all the attention from everybody at all the time, then it gets pretty bad. So the difficulty, the thing about Aries is they have this instinct that's so strong. And you do not caution these people. Now, if they're about to jump off a cliff, yeah, I hope you would caution them. But in general, if they grow up with Cancers and Capricorns and Virgos, we're going to end up cautioning them because they're very headstrong. They're so headstrong that if you look at their profile, you'll see they got a strong forehead, strong nose quite often. It affects the body shape. So they're like I always call them, they're a car with no brakes, no rear view mirror. We're just going. Green light. That's Aries. Now, certainly, if you got too much of it, it gets obnoxious, and certainly it gets really dangerous. And they're really very famous for head injuries because they just put their head out front and just go. But their instinct is to do that and to caution them. You're cutting them off from their own instinct. And you're going to have so many problems in life because of that, much more than if you just let them go. Believe me. So I've dealt with a lot of Aries and have to talk about that instinctive level. And you have to wonder about them. They're going to be very careful. A lot of them have the ability to sound so confident. They sound like they're so sure. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. And about half the time, they're not right. They're wrong. Doesn't matter. Just let them go. Now, at the same time, that's the art of parenting or doing astrology. At the same time, you have to give them common sense. You need to let them bump their head and heal. They learn that way. It's just how they are. So, what's the pitfall? What is the trap? The trap is if you let them go too much as a child, they'll end up thinking that there's nobody in the world but them. And it ain't right because we know that's not how it is. In a lot of Aries, see the little thing going around in the playpen. They see the little mobile going around, and that's how they see other people. A lot of them see us that we're all here to just entertain them. Oh, yeah. There's your trap. And the trap is usually answered by the sign opposite. And you'll notice that in the sign opposite Aries is the sign of Libra. Aries and Libra. Okay. So usually we can heal most of our built-in pitfall with exaggerating the sign opposite. And Libra is about me plus you. Aries is about me. Look what I do. Me. I gain knowledge about myself by what I do. And Libra is about we gain knowledge about what we do together. So sometimes, I'm not going to mention names, but sometimes you'll see some Aries people who everything you say, they've got to repeat what you just said, make it come back through their filter as if they said it. It's just really, really common. Okay? They just need to make it come through their mind because Aries is the sign that's just obsessed with the separation from God. They don't know it at the conscious level, but that's what it is. I'm amazed by myself. Okay. Easy thing to remember is if they get too messed up, is because they need to start thinking about we instead of just me. All right, Taurus is next. Now, you'll notice the first 6 signs are on the me half. The last 6 signs, the first 6 signs, this is all in the book, The Exquisite Zodiac. The first 6 signs are all about the me half. And the last 6 signs are the we half. Very critical difference, very critical. If you've read this book and you haven't picked up on it, you need to read the book again because it's really a philosophical book on all people. Now, on the Taurus level, you've got me and my stuff. And when you read all the books about Taurus, it's always about me and my money and all my things. Many Taurus people are coin collectors, they're car collectors. Look at Jay Leno and all his car collections. There's a Taurus extraordinaire. Extraordinary Taurus. So collecting is an extension of what I value. I value these things. And when we do finer astrology, we find out the sign of Taurus is really about my self-value, my self-worth. Okay. So Taurus, as I've often painted the picture here, that the negative side is much like Archie Bunker. The positive side is like the Hobbit, okay, who's in his little hole and he's got the furry feet and he's got the fire and he's drinking tea and he's eating crumpets and he's just got the world by the tail and he's sitting back relaxing. That is a Taurus world. It is small, it is comfortable, and these people usually almost every Taurus you're with, they're very comfortable and they make you feel comforted. But after a while, this is where's the trap. After a while, if they're not more balanced by Neptune or other planets in their chart, which is very common, they engulf themselves into a little myopic world where no change is possible. Everything is small. Keep all the windows shut. Well, that doesn't fly too well. That's not a healthy mentality because eventually Uranus is going to hit all of us. Eventually, the planet Uranus is going to go around the circle and hit something. And if you're not flexible enough, you're going to get something cracked. That's what Uranus does. Uranus comes along, we bend, then we change, or we crack. That's what it is. So the pain when you're raising a Taurus child let them have their little stuff. Don't ever take money from them. Don't ever take toys away from them. Don't have, you got to have great respect for what is theirs. Don't touch their stuff unless you're real cool about it. And you got to instill, it's part of the trap. You got to instill in them the knowledge of sharing with others, that there are other people out there, that maybe after a while, this desk that they've had for 45 years might need to be replaced. But there's this sense of just being glued to their stuff. It's very comforting to them. So you have to watch the trap of them living in too small of a world. Look at Archie's trap. Archie's trap is he thinks he cares about Edith. He could care less. She's just his servant. She's his slave. But he thinks he loves her. So there's part of the trap there. Most Tauruses are very pleasant. I've seen Tauruses with other signs in their chart, and it doesn't take a whole lot to get them moving, get them expanded. But the trap is living in too small of a world. Okay, so you have to encourage Tauruses to go outside, to try something new, to not always have orange tennis shoes, try some red tennis shoes, whatever it is. Okay, you have to encourage them to try new things. All right. Now, boy, it gets hard. I've been testing myself on this zodiac, and I've been going through it, John. And some of these signs are really difficult. One of the sections, the section that's the most difficult to understand in astrology is when you turn a corner at the bottom of the chart. Gemini, Cancer, Leo. That's really hard to understand because so much is happening at that area. Gemini's the third sign. It's an air sign. And Gemini's all about thinking. And boy, Gemini's can be very tough to bring up, especially if you got one that has too much Gemini. And they're just going to be here, there, and everywhere, turning over every rock. Looky here, looky there, look at this, look at that, blah, 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 talking your ear off. Why? And they're going to be very, very childlike. Even when they're in their 80s, they'll be childlike. Look at Bob Hope when he was 100 years old. He was still very childlike. So if you've got one that has too much Gemini, what I've been doing, like with Colleen, her son has 5 planets in Gemini, and with other Geminis, we've had a lot of success by getting them involved in martial arts because they got that extra energy. It's a nervous energy. And I don't mean the martial arts where they're winning trophies for kicking somebody's butt. I mean they're advancing and getting higher belts because they're learning to discipline their energy. So Geminis are the ones that are going to get labeled with ADHD. They're the ones that are going to get hit with Ritalin. It's a shame because I'm not a doctor, but it's a shame that that's the case. They have a very short attention span. So you have to keep them interested. You need to let them explore. Okay? They need to explore this and that. They need to communicate. They need to start a little newsletter when they're in 6th grade with all their friends just having fun. Variety is what they need. But you've got to watch them. Where's the trap? The trap is a simple one with Gemini. The trap is that it's always better on the other yard. It's always better across that fence. And that's the lie, because we all have an impulse that drives us, the archetypal impulse, but that impulse is wrong. Sometimes it's better in your yard. Sometimes you're better off not jumping the fence. So a lot of Geminis I know live in the future. They're very seldom in the here and now. They want to go see this. They want to go see that. They want to go see this, go see that. Well, that's a very healthy habit, quality for a while. But after a while, you need to settle down, which happens in the next sign of Cancer. You see, each sign gets to an impossible stage where it can't go anymore, and that's why they transcend into the next sign, which is covered heavily in that book, The Exquisite Zodiac. So the trap with Gemini can be very strong. And the trap is being so restless that they're always living in the future. They're always changing the subject. They don't want to go deep into anything. They just want to stay rather light across the surface. With you, John, it's not that way. You're not typical at all because of the Pluto in your first house. Completely changes your chart. See, in a way, it's really invalid to even talk about sun signs because we're not our sun signs. We're a mixture of a lot of different things. And astrology only answers part of us. There's a whole lot more to us than that. So they're very childlike. They're very restless. They sometimes have a hard time sleeping. They're very young. They have a real nervous energy. They sometimes have problems with their nervous system or with their learning abilities. You got to keep them fed constantly with new things. Let them try new things. Sound like your sister, Marsha? Oh, yeah. Okay, it's his sister. All right. Well, you got to let them be who they are. You got to let them be who they are. But after a while, it just gets tiring for everybody around them and for them. Because in general, until you get the whole zodiac balance inside yourself, that's a big chore. You got a lot of work to do. Now, I was just looking at Susan, the Sagittarian, and you'll realize a lot of the qualities that you'll hear about Gemini are similar qualities across the zodiac and Sagittarius. They're similar. So all the signs are very similar to the sign opposite. Now I'll show you this once again in case you have forgotten this. And this is why reading this book is so important. The Aries is about learning about the self. The Libra is about learning about the us. The Taurus is about learning about my value. Scorpio is about our value together, etc. So we have this constant theme of self and the other. Okay? And the parallels are drawn up very closely in a chapter in the book called The Six Polarities, which are really important that you understand if you want to learn astrology. Okay, now we get into Cancer, and it gets even more difficult. All the signs get progressively difficult. Cancer is a water sign. It's a very emotional sign. It's a very family-oriented sign, but it's all about taking care of me. As I did this book, I had to stop and put it in park and turn off the key in all signs and just stay there for a while. Really give a lot of thought to it. And I found that a lot of the signs are really misunderstood. Cancer's one of them, Virgo's another. And Cancer's really misunderstood because there's too much in print about them being so dependent. Well, a lot of them can be, and it is a dependent sign, but a lot of them aren't. Cancer is a tough sign because it's a cardinal sign, and the four cardinal signs are very tough. They're the turning points in the zodiac. The four cardinal signs, here's cardinal, the first letter of each pairing. Cardinal Aries, cardinal Cancer, cardinal Libra, cardinal Capricorn. In other words, the first sign in each quadrant sets the table for the next three signs. So Aries is about the self, so is this whole quadrant. Cancer is about taking care of myself, so is this whole quadrant. Libra is about relating, so is this whole quadrant. Capricorn is about relating to the world, so is the whole quadrant. All right. So that's why you make a mistake if you underestimate any sun sign that's a cardinal sign. Now, Cancers, they're born to buffer themselves from the world by being heavily reliant on their family. Well, that's what they do, most of them, not all of them. So they can be very, very strong because they're the mother influence. They're where you go at Christmas time. That whole mother, grandmother, chicken soup feeling that you have going home to somebody who cares about you. Caring itself is a very Cancerian type of energy. Now, what you have to watch out for, what is the trap? And I don't think there's much cancers can do about it if they've got too much cancer. The trap is they just become so dependent on somebody else that they don't get free like a lot of them do later in life and learn that they don't need to be as dependent as they think they do. So I think a lot of them grow up thinking they're real dependent. And I'll tell you what, as an astrologer, it's a painful experience to be with a Cancer child who didn't get what they needed when they were children because they need it. There's no sign of the zodiac that needs more TLC when they're young. You just got to give it to them. They need it. You do not mock this sign. They're very sensitive. But if you've got something that you want somebody to care for and you want to give it to somebody you trust, give it to your Cancer friend because they're going to take care of it. They're very tender and they're very sensitive. Now, the trap is that eventually the Cancer has to learn that they can no longer be dependent on something outside of themselves. They got to become dependent on themselves. And an awful lot of them pay the price, even for a long time. They pay the price for having a codependent relationship, which is a very Cancerian item. Notice the United States is a Cancer. The United States is not known for healthy relationships. It's known for an awful lot of divorces. So they're a marvelous sign when you're close to them. They're very warm, they're family, rub-a-dub, TLC. It's really nice and warm, but you've got to encourage the Cancer. What I do with my clients that have Cancer children is you got to encourage the child. Yeah, you got the right idea. Yeah, what you were just thinking. That's right. That's exactly right. Because they always want to come back, check with mom. Is that right, mom? Is that right, mom? Is that right, mom? That's how they learn. That's how you deal with Cancers and Pisces. Cancers and Pisces are very impressionable, and you got to take advantage of that and program them. The worst thing you can do with a Cancer child or a Pisces child is to walk around the corner and going, let them see you worrying about them. Don't do it. Don't do it. They're going to pick up your vibes. They're going to pick up your vibes. If you're worried about them and concerned about them, they're going to say, oh, I should be worried. You got to be very sure yourself that you're sending out very confident vibes because it's very natural for this sign to be insecure. Natural. It's not abnormal. It's natural. And they have to learn their way out of it. And when they do, they're really strong because Cancer's a cardinal sign. Cardinal water, teaching people how to feel, teaching people that how they feel is okay. I can't tell you how many Cancers I read for. So many are people with a lot of Cancer. And they end up wanting to go be a healer, teaching people that how they feel is okay. Because it's just unbelievable how bad we are at teaching other people that they're not okay. We got a big damn problem, I think, worldwide in judging people and telling other people that they're not okay. And it devastates people. It really does. So give them a break. Give them some time. If they're hurt more, when they hurt twice as much as you do. That's just how the sign is. Also, don't fall for it. Don't enable them. This is the sign that's going to insist that you enable them. Down. No. It's time for you to go get a job. It's time for you to go get a job. I still love you, but go get a job. Okay, that's a trap. Now they all got traps. Speaking of which, the next one's got the biggest trap of all, Leo. In my opinion, Leo has the biggest trap of all 12. I'll tell you why. I ain't afraid of getting in trouble. I just click on the end button here. I don't get in trouble. Leo is fire, it's fixed, and it's brought to us to learn as the soul grows up, in a sense, that you're not weak, that the other guys, their problem is not you. So you're not the problem, it's them. Boy, does that do a job on the ego. It ain't me, it's them. Oh boy. Claudia's out of your mouth. So the real healthy Leo is here to learn personal strength and become more confident, just like a teenager. Teenager gets in the car for the first time. They're nervous as hell. They're not going to show you. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're nervous. They're scared. My first time, I went through the neighbor's fence. I went about 15 feet first. Then I went right through the neighbor's fence. Of course, it was solid ice. My brother stood not have taken me out. Anyhow, Leo is a very delicate stage because it's very Cancerian inside, but they're not going to show you. Let me repeat that. They're very delicate inside because they're very Cancerian inside, but they're not going to show you because they're going to show you, I'm a rebel without a cause. I got my black leather jacket on, get in the car, let's go. So this stage where the teenager has to fool itself to get past the stage that it's in. It's fiery, which means it's got opinions, and it's fixed, which means you ain't going to change your opinions. Anybody ever see a Leo change anything? No. They're fixed fire. Now here's where the trouble comes in. Here's where it comes in. Now, I thought about this a long time. A lot of these things I've thought about a long time. And I'm pretty confident about it. The Leo trouble comes in when they believe their own BS. This is what happened with Trump. Even though Trump's a Gemini with a moon in Sag, he's got Mars and Leo rising. So whenever he just, I'm going to go drink some Clorox, I'm going to get rid of my diseases, he's got himself convinced. And then if you disagree, what happens? Here's the trouble with Leo. You are there to augment them, to confirm them. And when you stop, they feel dissed. Who? They feel dissed. And when you diss a Leo, you're done. When you diss a Leo, goodbye. You are an ingrate. They don't care what's true anymore. And that's where the trap comes in. The trap comes in, they believe their own stuff. You actually think the sky is green. 7.8 billion of us think it's blue, but you think it's green, Barry Bonds. Well, I really don't know who to believe. That's the problem. Now, with a Leo, it's really, really important that you treat them with respect. So when you're going to disagree with a Leo, or you're going to alter their mathematics lesson that night, whatever you're doing with the child, you got to do it really carefully. Leo and the next sign, Virgo, those are the two signs that just have problems with being pointed out mistakes. I have a Leo son, and I remember when he was really little, he was really good with mathematics, but he started making a couple mistakes here and there. So I wanted to see if he was becoming habitual. Like me, myself, I still have, in my multiply tables, I still have like a weak spot that never got learned right. So I want to see if it was something habitual. And I was trying to show him, is this habitual? Is this something that you keep tripping on? I just made a mistake. I just made a mistake. See, well, I wasn't sitting there going, you're making a mistake, but that's what they hear. So when you're with a Leo, do things as much as you can with respect. And you need to show respect to everything, because if they see you not respecting things around you, they get a natural inclination to get really upset with anybody that doesn't honor life. They just look at how Leo Obama was. Obama had his head held high. A lot of times people think it was arrogance. It wasn't arrogance. He was holding his head high because he had honor and dignity, and he wanted everybody to respect everybody else's dignity. It's a really important part for Leos. But if it comes down to they're wrong, they're just flat out wrong, and you just got to change your whole world to their worldview, then don't do it. Now, if you've got a Leo, and I've seen many parents that have Leo's kids that are impossible, good luck. Good luck. Because what I found helps with them is, and with Virgos, is get them a pet as early as possible, especially dogs. Leos love dogs. They're just maniacs about dogs. Because with a dog, they learn that this dog does mistakes. This dog does something wrong now and then, and they get to learn, the nature of things. So I think that's very helpful. But you got to be really good. And I've watched people that are good with Leos, and they correct the Leo, but they do it tactfully. And then the Leos can be really, really pleasant, really charming, wonderful, pleasant, warm signs because they're ruled by the sun. But don't get into this stuff. Don't get into that stuff. All right. Virgo's a real touchy sign. But I told you this is a tough part of the zodiac. 3, 4, 5, 6. In the Virgo stage, the 6th stage, boy, is this tough. I've had many parents come to me with Virgo children. Here you go, 6th stage, final stage of the first 6. The next stage is when we meet other people. This is a big deal. So a lot of weight is put on Virgos. Okay. With Virgos, the number one thing you got to do with them as children, be careful not to criticize them. Okay? Because they're so self-critical of everything they do, they don't need you doing it too. But you got to criticize when you need to and keep it constructive and keep it very manageable. And there's no anger in your voice. But they think that everybody's looking for their mistake. Look, I don't care if you know a 95-year-old Virgo. They think you're watching and noticing their mistakes. That's what they do. So they're wonderful people. They're very kind. They're hardworking. The males and females are quite different. The females definitely tend towards nursing or being a doctor. Everything's about fixing people. The males love engineering. They love woodworking, furniture making, things like that. They can be anything. They're real good at what they do. But the trap, this is a little more complex this time. What's the trap? You got to teach Virgo men that they have these things called emotions. You got to teach them that they have emotions and that emotions are normal and emotions are not for people that are weak. And it's really good that she got a black cat too. I got a black cat here too. He's a tuxedo. Virgo males are very embarrassed by their emotions because they can't stand anybody's got excuses. They can't stand people making excuses for something. That's a very admirable quality. So when a Virgo sees you using compassion for somebody, they'll think that you're letting them off the hook. But a lot of times you're not letting them off the hook. You're just being compassionate. That's what they have to learn. That's what they have to learn. Okay? When they see somebody relaxing, they got to realize that doesn't mean they're a bum. That means they're just relaxing. Maybe they're a bum, but for now, they're just relaxing. Because Virgo males put everything into the basket of hard work, get it done, hard work, get it done. Virgo women are quite different. Lovely, lovely people. Almost always, all the Virgos have very pure complexions. They have very small fingers, high pitched laugh. So Virgos can be delightful, but you gotta examine, do they have the shoulditis? Do they have the shoulditis? And if they do, there's not much you can do except at a very early stage. They need to, that's why raising a pet is a good idea for them too. You don't have to do a perfect job on everything all the time. You just don't have to. And you got to teach them that perfecting is a nice quality, but being perfect is an illusion. It's a tough stage for children. It's tough because it's already being tough enough because they're little. You're big and they're little, and they're in this constant testing environment, etc., etc. Now, Libra's next. All right. Now we go into the second half of the zodiac, which is other people. And the personality starts to become obsessed. It's obsessed because it's the first time we've stepped into the ballroom. The Libras become obsessed with how they're doing socially. So I've seen many, many Libra children, people raising Libra kids. You got to be very, very careful with how they start mixing with people. Okay? You got to be very careful not to call somebody a fly on the wall or insult somebody socially. You don't want to go there. You want to teach them that everybody's cool. Everybody's cool. But the danger with Libras is they start to judge everything about themselves as if they're outside of it. Look at the house I'm in, look at the clothes I'm wearing, look at the color I'm wearing, look at the people I'm with. They see themselves as an object. They see how socially successful they are, and they lose their individuality. And what did I tell you about the zodiac? When you got Libra problems, you need more Aries, more self. Aries aren't self-insecure. Aries, they know who they are by God. Here, I'm here. Aren't you lucky I'm here? So it's a very nice, necessary quality that Libras have to learn, which is how to play nice with other people. And most Libras are really, really, really good at that. And I've known a lot of Libra teammates, and they're just really, really good at it. But sometimes, what's the trap? Sometimes is what price are they paying to get accepted socially? What price are they paying to get accepted as a other partner? And the impress upon them, the stress upon them to be a good partner and to be judged as a twosome instead of a onesome is really strong. And the Libras have to constantly be reminded, no, this is not me plus you. This is you. How are you going to do this? Okay, how are you going to do this? I have so many clients I read for, and they want to talk about everybody in the family. And sometimes that's useful for me, But sometimes I don't want to hear about the whole family because I'm trying to work on you. And Libras can be very uncomfortable because they don't really want the target to be just them. Because if they've not given enough thought and attention to the self, there's where the problem comes in. And I'll tell you another thing. Libra is potentially, I'm going to show you why. Libra is potentially the smartest sign of all in general. Here's the reason why. When you are born, the sun is going through Libra for 30 days. When you are born, Mercury always stays close to the sun because it's closer than we are. So if your sun is in Libra, your Mercury's in one of these three. If your sun is in Aquarius, your Mercury is in one of these three. If your sun is in Taurus, your Mercury's in one of these three. Now, this is the reason in general why Libras are so smart. Here's why. If you're a Libra, your Mercury, which is your mind, has to be in Virgo or Libra or Scorpio. Well, when your Mercury's in Virgo, it's exalted there. That's the best place for it. And that's the kind of mind that's decisive, it's analytical, it's black or white, it can really decide. When the Mercury's in Libra, it's social. It understands what's going on, what's happening, what's the current way of thinking. It makes good lawyers, it makes good mediators. Very good place for Mercury, maybe a little bit indecisive. When it's in Scorpio, it's very psychological. It's like a psychologist looking past the man behind the green curtain, looking past to see the depths of things. So it's a very, very smart sign. And if it has any problem when it comes down to the trap becomes, are they bending over backwards to please somebody else or to be accepted in the group? Then they start to tend towards not being real. So the problem with Libra is very, very simple. Are they a social climber or are they a self? Because Libra's not here for you to be a social climber. Too many of them pick that up. Libra's here for you to be socially accepted. It's very important, but you don't have to say, oh, he's nobody. He's low on the ladder and I'm big on the ladder. That's when the ego gets involved. So it's really, really important when you're around any Libra. I've seen people raise Librans, friends of mine, and I have to commiserate with them for a while until the child gets older and starts to learn 7th, 8th grade, where all that pressure's on you. The child has to learn it's just not my social standing. It's more important that I be a me, that I be a Rick, that I be a self. And sometimes that's not easy. And that's why you want to train them from when they're really young to get that sense that sometimes if you sell out too much to the crowd, you're going to lose yourself and then it won't be easy to get back. Okay, let's move on to Scorpio. All right, the 8th sign, fixed water. Fixed water means they love it, they hate it, they hate it. Fixed feelings. Doggone it. All right. Scorpio, it's the second sign in the quadrant of relationships. It's a really intense sign. It's really a much, much higher octave than Libra when it comes to relating. It's the relating where you really fuse with another, where you intensely share, you become one. And what ends up with Scorpios is they end up being obsessed with betrayal. They end up being obsessed with, I can never betray anybody, and you better not betray me. It gets so intense. Fixed water. See, we don't understand that other signs aren't like us. You got fixed water, you got an ability not to betray. At least more of one. But you can't expect everybody else to be that way. So you wouldn't believe how many problems we get into when a Scorpio thinks you betrayed him. Doesn't mean you did, but if they think you did, then you did. X, you're going. That's it. Or worse. So it's a very strong sign. And what you do when you're raising them is you got to get them away from being underhanded. You got to catch them every time they're being sneaky and show them in a polite way. We don't want to do that. That's not how we do it. Because if there's ever been a sign that I've had to quote return the child back to the parents, there's nothing I could do with Scorpios. Because some of them are so strong-willed, just forget it. Just forget it. They're going to have to just live out their life. Now, that's not usually the case. And a lot of Scorpios are just wonderful, very caring, very deep, but it all comes down to the betrayal thing. If they're so hard on themselves, them and Virgos, Scorpio Virgos, if they're so hard on themselves, they don't cut themselves any slack or any self-compassion, that's where it all turns. It's got to be done there. And that's why another sign it's good to raise a pet, because they learn that the pet pees on the rug and you don't get real angry with it. So they got tremendous expectations on themselves. And if you can get the Scorpios, the whole key is one thing. If you can get the Scorpios to start using self-compassion, you got it. You got a very special being, because they're very strong. And the people they love to death. Very, very important. But if they start out from a past life chart or from too much Scorpio, too much Pluto in their chart, it's very tough to work with them, because they're just going to have to go their own way. And then what I do there is I just tell the parent, it ain't your fault. They just got this from a past life and they're going to have to work through it. Sagittarius. Now, this time we're still in the quadrant of relationships, but we have transcended personal relationships. It's no longer about my partner or closeness to my partner. Sagittarius is a much bigger, broader scale. Everything you do is big and broad in Sagittarius. It's about my country's thoughts, my country's philosophy, my government, your government, learning, education, college, transfer students. It's all about the big scale. So when you have a Sag, they can be difficult. Their trap ain't easy either. They want to have fun. They want to try this, they want to try that, fun. They want to try this, we try that, fun. They want to change their major every other day at the registrar's office, fun. Okay, but after a while, it becomes problematic, because sometimes you just got to make a decision and stick with it, and that's not a Sagittarian nature. I told you the biggest trouble I've had in my life in general was because of Sagittarius energy, without a doubt. Long story. But you have to teach a Sag, just like the Gemini, to calm down, settle down, work through things. You can't just hop up and go on the other side of the fence. You can't just say what you want and say I didn't mean it. Insult somebody, say I didn't mean it. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Let's stop, review what you said, own it, and let's talk about that. Because Sages are known for very sharp tongueth. They're known for being very blunt. And it's very honorable that they're very honesty bound, but it's not honorable when it's blunt and hurtful. So the trap with Sag, without a doubt, the trap is you can't have fun at everything you do. Sometimes you got to go to work and it sucks. Sometimes you got to pay the bills and it sucks. And sometimes if you want to just slip out of everything, that's called promising and not delivering. The number one problem with Sag: promise and don't deliver. BS your way out of something. You got to nip it in the bud. You just got to stop them when they're very young, and they start to do that. And you got to lean on the Saturnian planets and lean on the earthy planets in their chart and hope there are. Now, I've had clients bring me their 16, 15-year-old Sages, and nothing I could do. Sometimes. And the reason nothing I could do is because they didn't care. I talked to them, you realize this, you realize that? Okay. Okay. Now, of course, we're talking in extremes. Usually Sagittarius are really fun-loving, loving sign, has a lot of fun, nice people. But if they shy away from responsibility and they promise and they don't deliver, you got to stop it. And if you're related to an adult that's doing it, you got to look closely. And if a Sag adult is insulting you and they said they didn't mean it, they did mean it. They did mean it. Pay attention to it. Okay? You got to watch it. Now it gets even more difficult in the last quadrant of the zodiac. It's just not simple. I apologize to those of you sending me chat messages because I just don't have time to read them. By the way, you YouTubers, we're real glad you're with us. If you ever want to join us live on a Thursday night, just go to Google, type in Astrology Unplugged, and you'll get the link to join us free Eastern time, 8 o'clock Thursday nights. If you can't make us, this is always put up later on Thursday nights onto YouTube on my channel. Okay, Capricorns. I know Marcia's waiting patiently to hear about Capricorns. Capricorn is the top of the zodiac, the 10th sign. It's the last cardinal sign. It's a cardinal earth sign, which means it's a leader of people, a leader of material, a leader in the warehouse, a leader of getting the job done. And Marcia did a lot of work backstage on Broadway and sometimes as a stage manager. And I'm sure these people on Broadway were real glad she was there because they knew the prop was going to be there or they knew the light was going to do whatever it had to do, whatever it had to. She was managing. Capricorns get it done. Now, I'm going to tell you this not because I is one, but I'm going to tell you this truthfully. Capricorn's the easiest people to raise. Without a doubt, the Capricorn children are the easiest to raise. They're just good children. Now, they can definitely grow up to have all kind of difficulty, sure. But the reason is this. Capricorn is enamored at the top of the zodiac the first time the soul's thinking about all of us. And when you're thinking about all of us, you come up with this method called stop at a red light, go on a green light. Wow! Who thought of that? And Capricorn's really thrilled about to see society behaving itself. Stop at the red light, go at the green light. Who's going through the red light? Aries and Sag. It's just the way it goes. We have to live with everybody. But the difficulty comes in here. I'll get to that in a minute. My father was a Capricorn. I'm one also. Usually Capricorns really understand structure. And they understand coloring inside the box is going to keep them safe and out of trouble. And it's really usually pretty true. They're well-mannered and other things they don't get credit for. Capricorn's a very reverent sign. They have appreciation for what has gone before them. There's Shelby. Shelby's probably Capricorn. They're reverent. They appreciate things. Of course, other signs can be too. But what happened? Here's where the trap comes in with Capricorn. And it's quite a big trap. It's a quite meaningful trap. The trap is doing what you want to do versus doing what you're supposed to do. And Capricorns are really good. All Capricorns, and I don't usually use the word all, but all Capricorns have a very strong sense of duty and responsibility. Very, very strong. But sometimes it's so strong, they end up feeling dutiful are responsible for something that's not their responsibility. Huh, Marcia? Well, I know I do. I know I feel responsible for a lot of times when I really shouldn't. So the Capricorn needs to be encouraged at a very early age to be looser, not so worried about the rules, not so rigid. And it's a natural thing to watch Capricorns. As they grow older, they become younger, which is really true. They become looser, and it's usually because they've concentrated so well on getting their future secure that by the time it's secure, they have nothing to worry about. But remember now, what is the one thing Capricorns are always doing? The one thing they're always doing is they're making sure. Just like Virgos are always fixing, Capricorns are always making sure. Almost every other sentence they'll say, hey, now make sure you put that in the icebox. Make sure you flip that light. Again, it's that fatherly, opposites in mother, Cancer. It's the father of the zodiac, opposite Cancer, mother. But sometimes you can't just make sure. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes life throws you a river, a curvy river. Sometimes you can't make sure. Now, the one thing I've noticed since writing the book, and I've got a kind of a abridged version growing in my mind, if there's ever a 1.2 version of the book. Some of the things I've learned after going on a limb and stating what we stated so clearly in the book, a lot of Capricorns aren't having much fun. And they really need to change that. A lot of Capricorns have planets next door in Sag, so they can have fun with Sag planets. But a lot of Capricorns are faking themselves into corners. That's a real famous problem for Capricorns. They fake themselves into a corner because one of the mistakes Capricorn makes is using the word only a lot. Well, now the only way to do that, the only way to go there is this way. And we think ourselves rigidly. And that backfires on us. Instead, what we should do is call our Libra friends. Because our Libra friends will say, oh, no, you don't have to go that way. You can go these other 3 ways. Give me all these options. Ah, thank you, Linda. Give me all these options. Cool. So Capricorn is probably one of your least problematic signs when it comes to this, because the kids are going to behave. They're going to do what they're supposed to do. But this is why Capricorn rules the knee. The knee is probably one of the parts of your body that has to be flexible. It just has to be. And if it's not, you got a lot of trouble there in the hip. So let's go to Aquarius. Are we having fun? We're having... I don't know. I sure have to entertain myself here. Okay, Aquarius, 11th sign, opposite Leo. And what's amazing about Aquarius is this. You've got the Leo, which is about me expressing myself and getting attention and growing from that. And here you got us expressing ourselves, the group. That's the neat thing about Aquarius. They're really a really underrated sign. Very underrated. Fixed air. Fixed air means don't try to talk them out of their idea. They know how they think. Forget it. They know how they think. Okay. Aquarian kids usually don't have hardly any problems unless they get just too wild and crazy and they don't want any instruction at all. They're just going to go do their thing. An early James Dean. They're usually really friendly. They might have a hard time sitting in a classroom, sitting still like Gemini. They're both got restless minds. You always want to know why you're doing something. They're very smart. They're not going to treat you like daddy. Okay? They're going to call you Jim or Bill. They're not going to treat you like mommy, daddy. usually. They're going to treat you like another individual. And I've been learning this a lot about Aquarius lately. This theme of Aquarians being aloof. And it's true. And a lot of Aquarians can have trouble as parents if they're too aloof. One of the reasons I think for the aloofness is it's really mislabeled. Aquarians are glued to their mental world. And I told you, all signs are always doing one thing. Libras are always comparing. They're always comparing something to something. Always. Capricorns are always making sure. Aquarians are always building the bigger mental picture. And they started so long ago when they're very little, building this huge mental picture, and their world makes sense to them. And they don't care if your world doesn't. They're not nasty about it. They just don't care. So it can give them the image of being aloof. When they're off in their mental picture, in their mental world, you'll find them to be very, very friendly. The real deal. And really nice people. Got to get a drink. But I think that's one reason they get labeled with aloofness. Now, I do think if you're raising a child, an Aquarian child, what is the trap? I do think the difficulty with Aquarius is that they become too self-reliant and not enough reliance on other people. They're built to be self-reliant, and that's just what they are. But they can also get into a real hard-headedness and a real, what's the word? Willful attitude. I'm just going to do what I want. The rebel. So if you don't want a rebel when you're raising an Aquarius, then you better be sure to treat them as a friend, treat them with respect, let them get into all the things they're going to get into because they're going to do it anyway. They're going to get into stuff because there's no sign that gets more engaged in something and they just get maniacal about it and they got to master it. They're just get maniacal about whatever it is, whether it's keeping baseball statistics, whether it's an ant farm, whatever it is. You're going to just get into it. But it's usually not too problematic of a sign. And that's why we're leaving one of our most problematic signs for last. Oh boy. All right. I didn't mean for it to end this way. Dear Pisces, I love you. Okay, but Pisces is the last sign. Where did this thing go? Okay. Let me get it up here. All right, the final sign of Pisces. God love the Pisces, 12th sign. All they want to do is mutable water. All they want to do is mutable water. Give love. All you want to do is give love. And when all you want to do is give love, there's a whole lot of people out there that will be glad to take it. And that's why it's a dangerous sign. And you don't see many healthy ones like you did with Deneen Joyner. You don't see many healthy Pisces, well-rounded, like with Deneen, who was on here 2 months ago talking about shamanism. It's just a very hard sign to be. And in Deneen's case, yes, she's done the work, but Deneen also has a couple planets in Aries. So what Pisces are missing is not enough self, because Pisces is a sign of selflessness. They're not like the other 11 signs. They're usually chosen last on the basketball team because they don't have a lot of ambition. They don't want to win. They don't understand winning. Why would I want to win? We should all win. They're just so inclusive and loving about everybody. So when you got a Pisces, number one, they're really, really sensitive. Number two, drag them out of the closet because they don't need, I don't mean sexually. Get them out of the closet and realize, come on, you can paint with me out here in the room. You don't have to go hide with your flashlight to do it. Because Pisces just have this natural inclination to go escape everything and go be by themselves, go sit by the lake because they can't stand any kind of confrontation or arguing, any of that stuff. You got to really watch them if they start to go off by themselves. Big red flag. My brother was one. He went off by himself all the time. He just went off by himself all an awful lot. I didn't know where he was. They have a marvelous way of just escaping, just dissipating, just going away. Don't know where they went. Now, in his case, I don't know why. I don't know what he was doing. He just wanted to be alone. He just wanted to be alone. And those are why there are George Harrisons. They're why they're the poets. They're why they're good songwriters, etc., etc. But their difficulty is they don't want to be bound. Good luck. They don't want to be bound by anything. They're the sign of being unbounded. They're ruled by Neptune, unbounded. So what are you going to do when your first grade teacher calls you and they can't get your son or daughter to come to one position on the mat? Because the Mercury just keeps going this way, starts rolling that way, just starts dissipating, and that's just their nature. And you look inside and you grab them, and they're not there. That's how it is. You can listen to some other show if you want, but that's what a Pisces is. You reach inside and they're not there. Why aren't they there? Why aren't they there? Are they escaping, which is their negative side? Why aren't they there? They're doing drugs, which is one of their negative sides. The reason they're not there is because they're everywhere. That's why. And we can't understand that because we were taught Rick is right here. This is where Rick is. Not what we're learning now. Rick is everywhere. That's why it's a rare individual like Deneen that understands that and also can function in their body. See? That's why. So you got your hands full with Pisces because it's not too long before people start calling weirdos or they get joked on because they're not ambitious and they're real close to the needle in the bottle. Nobody heads to the bottom faster than the Pisces. And it's very sad because they're so sensitive, they don't want to argue about it. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. That doesn't cut it. You can't just leave them alone. So you got to get down there with them. And with the Pisces, I would say this sincerely. There's probably no sign that you need to drag to an astrologer more than your Pisces child. Because the astrologer needs to point out to you, okay, they got some Taurus in them. We can work on that. They got some Leo in them. We can work on that. Because they're not just the Pisces. We need to feed and exalt these other energies in their chart. And they're just lovely children, usually, if they don't just get into escapism. And once they start to escapism, you got a problem. You got a problem because they just don't understand what this is, working within dimensions. They don't, they're fluid. All Pisces love dolphins. All Pisces love the ocean. All Pisces love lakes. All of them. Why do you think that is? See, we're so clueless. We're so clueless when we make up our minds on stuff because we're not basing it on astrology, which is another sub-layer of reality. They're attracted because it's boundless. I can lay in my inner tube and have my dog pull me around the lake right? I can go out and just sit and watch the leaves fall. The beautiful Pisces quality, or those of us who have strong Neptunes, is a wonderful quality. But are you able to shift it? You got to come back and live in the world. So let's take our final 10 minutes. So the trap for them is escapism. Let's take our time. Raise your hand if you. I'm gonna go ahead and say good night to our YouTubers. Join us next Thursday and join my email on my website starself.com to join up for the mailing list and the newsletter list, and you'll be kept abreast of it Monday or Tuesday about what's coming up. Also, I announce what the subject will be coming up on Monday or Tuesday on Facebook. Thank you for being with us.